one more, guys. This is going to be a long show. Third Eye Blind with Third Eye Blind. In the opening montage, you heard Semi-Charmed Life, and now you're going to hear a clip from Jumper.
Step back from that ledge, my friend. You could cut ties with all the lies that you've been living in. And if you do not want to see me again, I would understand.
So Third Eye Blind's self-titled debut album comes at number 178 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 19 in 1997, number 946 of all time. It's Third Eye Blind's highest-rated album on Best Ever Albums. It did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Third Eye Blind is ranked number 806 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. So as I said, this is their debut album. It was released on April 8th, 1997. So yeah, it's about to... actually a couple days, right? About a week or so. It's going to have a birthday, so there you go. The genres include alt-rock, post-grunge, and power pop. Their highest charting album was 2009's Ursa Major, which came in at number 3. It hit number 3 in the U.S. charts. And their highest charting single, by no surprise, is Semi-Charmed Life, which hit number 4 in the U.S. Influences include The Clash, Kemper von Beethoven, Lou Reed, The Beatles, David Bowie, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, The Police, Prince, Mark Bolan, and U2. And so I learned a lot about them. I didn't really know much about their history, but their origins can be traced back to the early 90s when the frontman, Stephen Jenkins, was in a interracial rap duo called Puck and Natty, along with Herman Anthony Chun, also known as Zen, was the rap name that he went by. So Puck and Natty, they did get a little attention when their song Just Want to Be Your Friend was featured on the Beverly Hills 90210 soundtrack, which I didn't even know there was a Beverly Hills 90210 soundtrack, but you can find Puck and Natty on that one.
Sounds like a bonus episode if there ever was one.
Exactly. So that duo, they were in talks with Capitol Records on a deal, but Stephen Jenkins backed out of that over disagreements over the musical direction of the group and the producers that they would use, so the group just disbanded. And so Jenkins started focusing on creating a rock band, which he started to do. But it went through various members in the beginning stages. According to Jenkins, they would leave because of drug addiction. So lots of drugs in this band's history. In 1993, he and another musician, Jason Slater, did record some demos, and they started to develop more stronger writing chops when a guitarist by the name of Kevin Cadigan came on the scene. And I think Jason Slater left shortly around, or right around that time. They also added a bassist, Arian Salazar, and Cadigan became a main parting writer with Stephen Jenkins. So they start writing more songs and better songs than what Jenkins was writing before. The group did enter a Battle of the Bands contest in July of 1995. So the winner of that contest was awarded a record deal. Third Eye Blind did not win that contest. The performance was described as disastrous, as Jenkins was sick and didn't perform that well. The drummer had just quit the band, and Cadigan blew out his guitar amp 2 songs into the set. So they did not do too well. And as a result of that performance, their management and studio team that they had been working with decided to leave the band and just not work with them anymore. And the group almost split up at that time. But they did carry on. They got a new manager and a drummer by the name of Brad Hargraves. And they recorded another demo, shopped it around a bit, and got a gig opening for Oasis in San Francisco, which is actually where they were from. I forgot to mention that they were kind of a Bay Area band. It went so well for that opening show for Oasis that they were invited back for an encore. So something you don't see too often is the opening act getting called out for an encore. So labels started paying a little bit more attention, and the group finally signed a deal with Elektra Records. And the contract, so I'm not exactly sure what this means or how this works out, but I read it in a couple different places that the contract that they signed was reported as the largest publishing deal ever for an unsigned artist at the time. So must be just like for a new artist that they were signing, the publishing that they gave the group might have been kind of off the charts or something that hadn't been seen before. But so they go into the studio to start recording this record, but almost right from the get-go, there's a lot of tension. They hired an engineer by the name of Eric Valentine, but he felt he was doing more work than actually kind of doing more production than just engineering. So he felt that he wasn't getting paid enough. Cadigan and Jenkins were also at odds. Cadigan started to feel his role being diminished. And this was a fun one. So this is going to go into, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but John was kind enough to share us a podcast about a little bit more history of Third Eye Blind. And Stephen Jenkins is not really a well-liked individual in the music industry. And this might be one of the reasons why he, unbeknownst to the rest of the band until several years after the fact, shortly after Cadigan and Jenkins signed the deal with Elektra Records, Stephen Jenkins, a couple days before that, secretly set up a Third Eye Blind Incorporated as a corporation and named himself the sole owner and shareholder, giving him complete control over all legal and financial matters in the band. And as I said, Cadigan didn't find out about this till years later. So yeah, there you go. So the biggest song for this band is "Semi-Charmed Life." That I learned that the refrain, all the doot doot doots, that was inspired by Lou Reed's "Walk on the Wild Side," and Jenkins intended that to serve as an answer song to "Walk on the Wild Side." And that song was conceived. He started thinking about the idea of the song after witnessing his friends using crystal meth at a Primus concert, which was covered in that podcast as well.
At a Primus concert?
Primus concert.
Weird mix of music and drug.
Yep.
Okay.
So there you go. So Jenkins, for Semi-Charmed Life, Jenkins is credited as the sole songwriter, but he did buy his former bandmate Zen from that rap duo. He did. I think that there was some contributions that he had to Semi-Charmed Life, because that was a song that was written, years before the band started. But Stephen Jenkins paid him $10,000 and bought the rights to anything that he had written. But Cadigan also later filed a lawsuit saying that he had some authorship over the song. So there's a lot of people saying that they were, had some say into the writing of that song. So the band this album was a pretty big hit, and then they go on to record their second album, which shortly after the release of that album, Cadigan was fired. Ended up suing the band for wrongful termination, all that. The bassist, Arian Salazar, left in 2007. Third Eye Blind still kicking today. Stephen Jenkins is still the lead singer, guitarist of the band, and Hargraves is still the drummer, so they're still together. They've released a total of 6 studio albums, and last summer they toured with Yellowcard, so maybe some people saw that last year. They have hinted at a new album coming out, and just a couple weeks ago, fellows, they released a new single called Like a Lullaby. It was released on March 13th, which they performed on NPR's Tiny Desk concerts on the same day. So just a couple weeks ago, they were on.
Watched it this week.
I did watch it. Stephen Jenkins can't really hit the high notes, can he, John? No.
I'm gonna be
anymore.
generous, and they said he had a cold, so we're just gonna go.
Yeah,
with that.
it was one of those things where they did Jumper, and when they came to the chorus, he would just stop singing and encourage the audience to sing the chorus for him. So it was one of those deals. But yeah, he's not a very liked individual. But there you go. John and I have some stories about this record, but Josh, let's start with you. What'd you think of
I was
Third
there
Eye Blind?
for that one story, so I'm wondering.
Oh, maybe you were there. That's true. Okay,
I definitely remember.
I'll
go
tell
ahead,
it in
Josh.
my take.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't know. I was kind of not dreading listening to this album, but I wasn't looking forward to listening to this album, and I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed listening to it. It's actually better than I thought. There was a surprising amount of singles on this album. They're all on the front half, so the front half is definitely better than the second half. But I feel like they are we're in this post grunge era of rock, right? Or whatever. What was the other term that was post grunge for Matchbox 20?
This is post grunge. Yes.
Yeah.
This is labeled as post grunge. Yes.
Yeah, and so I feel like this is one of the better iterations of post grunge that we've listened to. It's got a real like solid guitar foundation. He's a pretty decent singer for this type of for their sound. It's kind of got this sing-along quality to a lot of the songs that you can't help. I've heard Semi-Charmed Life hundreds of times probably at this point, and it's it's testament to how good a song it is, because it still works, and I still end up singing along to it. So thanks, Crystal Meth Guy, whoever you are that was doing that. The back half of the album falls off a little, only in the fact that it doesn't have singles, but I found myself paying attention to them in spite of that. I feel like something like Good For You was a pretty solid song, and I Want You, I like that as well. I don't know, it's kind of got this, it's definitely not grunge, but it's kind of got this a little bit of edge to it in a good way. I think that it's not trying too hard. It's not trying to be something that it's not. It's just kind of got this solid rock sound and feel, without being like too heavy or too twee or gimmicky. And so I think that's why I liked it more. It's just kind of straight ahead rock and roll that we don't get a lot of, and I liked it. So I'm not saying Complex Thoughts, but I liked it. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I've always known this album. This true story. This was the first album I ever listened to when I went to college. When I went to grab an album, when I had unpacked everything and gone in, I just so happened to pick this one, which is kind of funny because it's I was some big Third Eye Blind stan or whatever. But I can definitely remember putting this in a Discman and listening to it. And the story that Matt is talking about is we famously. Matt and I have known each other for quite a while, but when we were in school together is where all three of us actually.
Yeah, I was there. Don't erase me from this story.
Yes, I don't know why I think of it. I don't know why I think of it as being Matt and I. But I guess
because I think because you and I had had the same reaction. I think we had the same. Yeah,
You're
Josh.
More
maybe that's
on it.
maybe that's why I think about it. But somehow the topic of Third Eye Blind came up with the boyfriend of another member of our program. I will. Leave that person anonymous for the sake of this, so that the real heads can, create a Reddit page or something to figure out who it is. Anyway, so what happened was this album came up, not from Matt, Josh, or I, as I remember. I believe it was brought up by the other Paramore in this case. And at the time, I believe it was Matt who offered, I love this album, but the first half is so much better than the second half. And I think it was, but the half, there's a half of that album that's awesome, and the other half not as good. I think, because I didn't say it was the first half. I think that was the clarification. There's a half of that album that's good. I think Matt offered that up, and I co-signed that without explaining which half it was, which is the key point of that, Matt. So thank you for putting that in. Signed in on it, and in my brain, I was thinking, as I'm sure Matt was as well, well, there's no doubt what the half of that album is. And this gentleman enthusiastically agreed with Matt and my take, only to say that it was the second half of the album, which was the good half of this. Now, I want to say this. The second half of the album is not terrible, but it is a big difference in quality, the first to the second half. While the second half has songs like Good For You and The Background and Motorcycle Drive By that are good, and a couple others that say, like kind of in the middle. The first half of this album, up to track number 6, I'd even go so far as to say number 7, right? Because Burning Man is my least favorite song on the entire album. But I'd say all the way up to number 7, but certainly up to number 6, goes real hard. There's all kinds of good songs on that first half. I'll hold that first 7 songs up against most albums of the 90s. That's how good I feel the album is. Losing a Whole Year just comes in with this like great, like, you want to talk emo, like that's my type of emo right there. Right. Like, when like as this came on this week, like I first play was in the car and I still like it ripped my throat out singing that. I remember you and me used to spend. You know, like it's just a great start to the song. It goes down to Narcolepsy, which is a song that's low and then high and low and high and really works. Semi-Charmed Life obviously is the big single off of this, but Jumper was a really freaking big song. And then How's It Gonna Be was a really big song. That's my favorite song on the album, How's It Gonna Be. I think it's one of the best rock ballads of the entire 90s. It's just a great song. It's lyrically great. It's melodically great. It builds. It's like all the things I want in my power pop. And that's kind of how I view this album. It's like a power pop like album, right? Like power pop rock album in the lane of something like Big Star or you know, Badfinger and stuff like that, but with a little bit like heavier guitar, I'd say is the part that like is the more indie rock inspired part of it. So it's this great album. But yes, there is someone in the world out there standing for the second half of this album and saying, you know, the first half of this album really didn't hit for me, which I shouldn't say I hesitate to say it's a wrong take, because I say stuff's a wrong take all the time, but I'm very confident.
It's a hot take, that's for sure.
What hot is one thing. Wrong, I'm going to go so far as to say it's the wrong take on this. I could see someone saying there's not a bad song on this album. Fair enough. I don't think there's a bad song, right? There's songs I like better than others, and that is usually what I say about albums that I love from cover to cover, but I could see somebody saying that. But yes, the second half is the better half to the first, is the wrong take, and I will go ahead and etch that in the ground. But yeah, this is just a very pleasant listen as an album. This is, when we said remember somebody asked me like, what's the post grunge you like, John? And I held back because I was going to say Third Eye Blind is more like that lane for me, but I knew we were covering it this week, so I held off on it. But yes, this has it. It's, as Josh said, it's aggressive enough to have some edge to it. It doesn't just become like stuff that plays in the background of Abercrombie and Fitch. It's got more to it than that. The fact that you have an actual fucking rock star in the front of the band does help the band out quite a bit, as much as the guy's an asshole. Like, he is one of the last guys I can remember being like a full-on, I'm going to embrace. He was much older, I think, too, if I remember, too, wasn't he? Like, when they hit the scene, he was like already like in close to his mid-30s, is the other thing I remember about him.
See, so he was born in 1964. Okay. So yeah, he would have been like 33.
Yeah, so he's older than your average rock star during this time too, which is something that I definitely remember about him. And yeah, you just, over the years, you'd hear these like fantastic, like he's one of these guys, like I don't think I'd ever want to be around him because he definitely seems like a douchebag, but like I fucking laugh every time I hear the story. My favorite, and I said it to you guys today, was his feud with Rob Thomas, where he basically
like a one-way feud.
He completely no-sold it. He's like, I don't know who this guy is, despite knowing not only like he knows who he is, but he answered a series of questions like knowingly about the guy while like totally no-selling him. One of my favorite is that like, did you call Rob Thomas fat? Like, well, I don't remember if I called him fat, but if I gained 50 pounds, I'd expect Rolling Stone to rag on me, and I'd take it, which of course it is that you do that. And it's like, what do you think about the fact that he called you 100% cheese? He goes, you see, even when he's ragging on me, he has to talk about food, which is the chef's kiss. So, I mean, the guys, you know what I mean? You really can't rock star better than that, right? Yeah. But there's a famous Onion AV story of like him going to this recording studio and like showing up like 45 minutes late with like a leather jacket and like a motorcycle and like pulling it up front while it's running, grabbing a chair and like turning it backwards.
Oh my God.
And like getting super close to the person despite it being a big room and kind of be like, what are we going to do about this rate right here and stuff like that. And just, there's a series of these like ridiculous fucking rock star things that the idea of them and Oasis being on tour together, by the way, is also fucking hilarious because Oasis has that same energy, right? Yeah. Along the way. But you need a couple rock stars along the way. I'm sure if I dug into his history, there's going to be all kinds of problematic shit. But you know what? I don't care because Go ahead.
He dated Charlize Theron too, didn't he? Like,
yes.
I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say prime Charlize Theron, but like her life is prime Charlize Theron. So like, yeah,
for like 3 years.
Yeah, man. So good. I think I remember hearing a story from like like I would. Rob Harvilla did a podcast called 60 Songs That Define the 90s. It ended up being 120, which is great. They did Semi Charm Life on that. But I think he described why he was dating Charlize Theron as, I'm the only guy that's not intimidated by her when she wears heels or something, which is so douchebaggy, but also kind of like fucking hilarious. So like, I can't help but kind of like begrudgingly like small clap, you know what I mean? For like there's like a level of douchebaggery that almost goes from like you're a douchebag into like you're funny again for me, and like back and forth. But you know, no one would care if the music wasn't good, and the music was good throughout this entire album. So yeah, this is definitely a thumbs up for me. I've always really liked this album.
Yeah, I'd go so far as to say that all of the singles, because there's five singles, right? The first 6 songs, there's five. The 5 singles are in those 6. That first
There's 4,
round,
right? I only remember 4.
There's 5. Losing a Whole Year, Semi-Charmed Life, Jumper,
okay,
Graduate,
Losing a Whole Year.
and How's It Gonna Be?
Yeah, I really like
Any of
Graduate.
those 6 could be singles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only remember 4 being on the radio. But
Yeah. Yeah, Losing a Whole Year I don't remember as being as much on the radio as the other 4, but I'm going on record right now, all 5 of those are EJs. If we were doing single segments, I would put an EJ label on each one of those songs. They're just, and I was thinking, like, I know I've always, Semi-Charmed Life is the song that I think of right away, and that's a song I remember when it came out, loving it right away, kind of just being like, holy crap, that just hits you right from the drum to the guitar. It's just like the doot doot doots. It's catchy as all get out, right? And it's just, and it builds, right? It does these things, and it adds like an extra chorus or an extra verse when you think it's going to go into the chorus. It throws in another verse there, and he takes it to a different level because he's singing higher, and it's a little bit it's varied, and at times I remember this in that around the time.
Matt.
What?
Does it speak to you like the chorus to the verse?
It absolutely does, John. Yes, but
let that one go.
I remember they used to cut out, like they used to abbreviate the song on the radio because it's like they cut out that part. I'm like, they cut out my favorite part of the song, and I always get pissed off when they did that, just for, 4.5 minutes is too long, so we need to make it to 4 minutes or whatever. But I've always loved that song, and then they just, all the other ones were great too. And listening to it this week, I wasn't surprised that I liked them. I was surprised at like, damn, I love each one of these songs equally. Like, they're all at that level. I really struggled as to which song to put on I was definitely going to do Semi-Charmed Life, but like, which of these other 4 songs am I going to put on, and I just went with Jumper. But I think that they're just great melodies. I think it's great production. They're big. That's a big guitar, relatively big guitar record. So, and I like his voice. I like the there's some harmonies on here that are really nice too.
I think I remember hearing that he was a student of Joe Satriani, the guitar player, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the research, but yeah. So, and then, so I knew, it was funny, like listening to the album this week, the second half, it was like listening to a new album, because I really, like, when I had this record, I never really I listened to it a couple times, and I'm like, man, that, like, the first couple times, the rest of the album really didn't do a whole lot for me. And so I didn't really know it. So listening to it this time, I'm like, okay, I really have to focus more on the second half. It's better than what I remember. I think particularly for songs like, I think Motorcycle Drive-By probably stands out as being the one that I didn't really know at all or remember at all, and liking that a lot. That's kind of more of a ballad that builds.
What if you listen to it in
towards the end.
reverse? I wonder if that would like increase like the enjoyability of the album.
I mean, maybe.
Imagine hearing "Losing a Whole Year" as the last song of this album. You'd be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. But I still like Thanks a Lot. Good for You. Probably Burning Man, London didn't really do as much for me. But they're not bad, right?
Yeah,
it's just you start off on such a high with such great, well-written, fun songs that are super catchy. They stay in your head, and they don't get old, right? None of these songs got old, and none of them sounded really dated. I think that's kind of an interesting, like, yes, it's post-grunge, but a lot of post-grunge sounds dated, right? Or it sounds very derivative, and I didn't really feel that here. I felt like this is kind of, I mean, it's nothing special in terms, it's a rock band, right? They're not doing any interesting production things or doing like a prog thing or this weird time signature or anything like that. It's a straight ahead rock album, but the singles just stand out so much, and there's somewhat of a timeless nature to it. It's just being like just a great rock song that, you know, happened to come out in the 90s. So it's not as derivative, I don't think. There's some of the stuff on the back end might be a little bit more generic, but you're right, it's not bad. It's just not nearly as interesting or nearly as fun. But just having 5 singles that are just that tippy top, like happy, fun, great rock songs. There's a thumbs up here on this record. So, and you're right. Just reading stories about him and listening to that podcast about Stephen Jenkins. Yeah, you don't really have rock stars like that. I mean, you don't really have popular rock like this on the radio to begin with, let alone a guy that's as arrogant and full of himself and roundly hated, as being an asshole, in the industry.
I also think what's so funny about him is that I don't think he would trigger me at all, because I would just be amused by like it and like sort of pass by. The fact that there's like a specific type of person that would be triggered by him also makes me laugh a little bit. And I just love this idea of these post-hardcore bands like Eve 6 and Matchbox 20 and
post-grunge.
Post-grunge, sorry. Like all fighting with each other.
Well, the Eve 6 guy was interviewed on that podcast, and didn't he say, like, he walked in, he's like, yeah, I slept with your girlfriend, and, like, it just, like, would just totally...
And, no, he said, I slept with your girlfriend, and then he said, you're, like, you have the lyrical gift of, like, Jim Morrison. But you're an alcoholic. So it's like, he's like, I don't even know what to do with all of this info, which is fucking fantastic. So, yeah. But I will say this. I think I put Third Eye Blind in the same box as the Gin Blossoms for me, and that I've always liked them. I always think that people underestimate how many great songs they have. I think for some reason people don't like think of them as being super weighty, which I kind of get because they're not like the weightiest bands, but I feel like they're always viewed as being more lightweight than they actually are. And then you go and like listen to their stuff and you're like, God almighty, they have like
it's pretty good.
Not just good songs, but like really fucking good songs. And so those two bands always stand out to me from the 90s of like mainstream rock, like the best you can do, like this like power pop mainstream rock that can sell 6 million albums, but also still maintain some credibility.
You think like Stone Temple Pilots is also in that category?
See, to me, Stone Temple Pilots is too immersed in like traditional rock or grunge themes. Like, like Stone Temple Pilots was like viewed the same way, like as uncool, right? But in a different way, I think, than Third Eye Blind and Gin Blossoms were, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, I know what you're saying, though.
Well, Stone Temple Pilots wasn't nearly as poppy as those two bands.
Right,
There was a grunge. They were more grunge. They were kind of like the fifth grunge band, right?
I always thought of them as like a Led Zeppelin inspired band. Like I know that
too.
Had,
yeah.
Like, I always thought of them as much more like Led Zeppelin than grunge. But I guess because Plush came out, but like if you listen to Purple and you listen to Number 4 and Tiny Music, those sound way more like fucking Led Zeppelin than they sound like grunge. It's really only parts of Core that sound grunge.
Yeah.
And even then, something like there's songs like Sex Type Thing, right? That is way more fucking sleazy rock than grunge, if that makes sense. So yeah. But anyway. All right. Well, it has, as Matt said, it has been a long